Mhm. So, hello everybody. Today we're going to go over just the work study program and just kind of like all the details that go into that, how to find jobs and how to get hired and things like that. So we'll first start with some introductions. So my name is Alexandra Mayer, or Alex. I work in the financial aid office for the work study program. I do a lot more of the back end things. I do a lot of the onboarding process. If you're an off-campus student, I do the document collection and I'll do kind of timesheet information as well. So I'll pass it over to Michelle.
All right. Again, hello everyone. So my name is Michelle Gomez. I work in the Career Center here at UCR. I oversee our employer relations. So my team does a lot of work with working with employers to help connect them to you all for employment opportunities. And we also get to support students for, again, student employment. So while you're still in school, helping link you to those part-time jobs. So I'm glad to be with you all, and I will also pass it then to Isabel.
Hi everyone, my name's Isabel. I'm the work study program graduate assistant here at the Career Center, so I work closely with Michelle. I do a lot of the Handshake approvals, so anything you see on Handshake has to be approved by me before it's posted. Um, I also keep track of the work study Career Center email box. So if you have any questions, usually that will come to me and I'll be able to try to answer your questions as easy as possible. But yeah.
Awesome. And you'll be hearing a little bit more to how to connect with Isabel later this presentation, but turn it to Alex.
All right. So can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so we have a Q&A, a QR code for a Q&A. So let me drop the link in the chat in case you can't do the QR code scan. So these are for any questions that you have during the presentation. If you don't want to ask them directly in the chat, and we'll try to answer them usually at the end of this. So yeah, I think we can get started. So this is kind of the topics that we'll be going over today. So we're going over what work study is, how you know if you qualify, the benefits of using it, the strategies on searching for a job, how to apply for a work study job, and then once you do get hired, that kind of process, especially if you're off campus and that onboarding process, and then how the timesheets will work and how you'll get paid. So what Work Study is a federally funded program. So it is need-based employment program, and you will see it in your financial aid offer. So it's a little bit different about how normal financial aid works. If you get any grants or scholarships, those are directly awarded to you. When you see this in your financial aid offer, you won't get that directly awarded to you at the beginning of the quarter. For example, you would get it through payment. So as you are working a job, as you get paid, that is what this work study award is. And you can obtain a work study award on either on or off campus positions. We'll get into a little bit more about that later. And important note is it does not have to be repaid. So for example, if you get awarded $3,000 and you only use $2,000 of it, for example, you don't have to pay $1,000 back or anything. You just have $3,000 to use for the entire year. So next slide. So we'll kind of talk about how you know if you do have work study. Could you go to the next slide, thanks? And so this, you're qualified based on the results from your FAFSA. So you will turn that in every year. And then if you're deemed eligible by the federal government, you will be awarded work study. And there's some qualifications for it. You have to be an undergraduate student. You have to be eligible to work in the United States. You have to demonstrate financial need. And you have to meet and maintain a satisfactory academic progress. So for at the beginning of the year, if you do get awarded work study, but then maybe you fail to maintain that SAP. So if you fall under like a 2.0 or you fail to meet some other of these qualifications, then you will lose your work study. And then you would have to maybe do a SAP appeal or something like that to gain that work study back to be able to keep working. Again, if you do qualify, it will be automatically awarded to you. Um, and one important note is that you do have to use it, or if you will lose it the next year. So if you get it awarded like your first year and then you don't work, your second year, you won't be awarded it automatically. And then if you did want it back, you would have to submit an appeal. And that process can be obviously a little bit more in depth. So, and then another thing to know also is that if you do want to search for work study jobs, you do have to accept work study in your financial aid offer. So if you don't accept it, you won't be able to see work study positions on Handshake. So it is important that you do accept work study before you start looking for a job. And then how you check for your award, you will log into our web and go to financial aid, make sure you're in the 25-26 year, and then click on the work section, and then you would accept that work study award there. And again, that is also important if you before to start looking for jobs on Handshake. And then we have some benefits just for work using work study. It obviously helps the educational expenses because it is a normal job, so you are getting paid. Usually the jobs that you will be working are on campus, and so that does have flexible hours because all the departments know that you're students first. So, if you have to take some time off for, studying or finals or things like that, they're usually very flexible on those. And then you obviously can gain experience, skills, and network since you will be working with professionals on campus and other students. So it was a really good program to use. And one thing that I have noticed is that a lot of jobs on campus do prefer work study students. So if you do have work study, you generally do get preferred over students without work study. So it is a good good thing to have to start working.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I'll pass it over to Michelle.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Alex. I also just wanted to add, in addition to our on-campus employers, our off-campus employers, which we'll talk about in the next slide, they too often are flexible with students. They know that you all are students first. So those are part of our conversations when we're establishing those agreements. So with that goes the question. So who hires work study students? So we do get this question a lot. Students are like, I have this part-time job off campus. Can I use my work study award for this job? So to kind of clarify what falls under that umbrella. So any on-campus employer can qualify for work study. Our only requirement is that they have to post a work study job on Handshake. So if you did not find that job through Handshake, you can always bring that up in your interview and you can say, hey, I am work study eligible. I would love to utilize my award for this job. And I think that's a conversation with the employer. And if they hadn't posted it on Handshake, then you can connect them to us. We will help them get that going so that you can kind of be processed as a work study student. So that's pretty easy. But just to again say, not all campus jobs are work study. So I wouldn't assume that. It's only if you found it on Handshake and you see work study in the title, then again, those are the ones that have been approved for work study. Off campus, we do have off campus partnerships with employers, but they need to meet certain criteria. So typically it's school districts and nonprofits that have specific types of roles that meet the classifications set by the federal government. So we'll share what some of those jobs look like. But again, we do have a good number of off-campus partners that are great opportunities for students. So we really hope that you will kind of open up your job search to consider working with them. So, but for those that, for the example I brought up that maybe have, a current part-time job off campus, say with McDonald's, again, we most likely would not be able to partner due to them being a for-profit. So again, there's kind of strict guidelines about what can or can't. So if you have a question, feel free to reach out. We can kind of assess that with you and again, work with that employer if you think that it could fit. But in general, we already have established agreements with people and have those ready to go for you on Handshake. So types of positions you might find, you're going to see a lot. So again, I know for some of you, this might be your first job out of, high school. And for you, you're pretty open. But for those of you who are like, okay, you know what, I'm a data science major. I really want to, focus on jobs that have these types of skills. You're going to see a little bit of everything with work study. So we do have kind of those that are focused on maybe data and research. There's customer service roles. I know dining hires a ton. They're probably our biggest employer on campus. There's administrative office support positions. And then there's tutoring positions, and that's what you're going to see a lot through our school districts. There's a ton of tutoring opportunities that some are virtual and some are off campus. And then community service positions, and you'll see most of those through our nonprofits that we partner with, but there are a few on campus where maybe they primarily service the community. So these are the different types of positions you might see in that work study pool. And then these are some important dates to know as part of the work study program. So again, as of August 21st, you all were able to start viewing jobs. Going back to Alex's point, pending you already accepted your award, you should have access. And then once you start viewing them, you're able to start applying for those jobs. If you've already applied and say you've had an interview or maybe you're a returning student and you want to work for the same department that you did last year as a work study student, the earliest you can start utilizing those work study funds is September 21st, and that is pending you've completed some steps prior. So we'll talk about that in a moment. So if you have those questions from your employer, week 0 again is the earliest. So students student employment guidelines say that students shouldn't work more than 19 hours a week in general. So if you have multiple jobs, on campus, again, you really want to be thinking while you're a full-time student, you shouldn't be working more than 19 hours. So that's something to just be mindful of. However, if during the weeks where you are not in classes, winter break, spring break, you can work up to 39 hours. So, and then finally, June 20th, 2026 is the last day that you can utilize that work study funding. So it will end that day. And then you'll have to kind of go through this process again and checking your FAFSA to see if you're eligible for the next year. So I will say with this timeline, yes, fall is very heavy when it comes to kind of recruiting for work study. But for some of you who are new, this is your first year, you may want to hold off and say, hey, let me get, acquainted with college and figure out the ropes before I jump into an on-campus job. Just to say that we do have departments and off-campus folks that post all year. So there still will be opportunities, but it does tend to be a lot heavier in the fall. So again, those are decisions you'll just have to weigh for yourself. Some quick reminders to think about. So again, just because you're awarded work study doesn't necessarily guarantee you a job. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news. There are a lot more of you than there are jobs available. However, our team does work really hard to try to increase those number of opportunities, but you still have to put in the work for it, like you would see with any job. So they are competitive, in particular on-campus jobs. They tend to get much higher applications than are off-campus. So again, if for you, you're like, I really want to utilize work study, I really want to work, you may want to be a little bit more open in terms of the types of opportunities, that you're trying to secure. And again, they're real jobs. So we're going to provide a few tips for you in this presentation, but in general, there's a lot of resources at the Career Center that are going to help you to be successful in that job search. So similar things, you want to show up on time, be courteous, act responsibly. Don't surf the internet, make personal phone calls, text, or study. Again, these are real jobs, and they can decide if they want to keep you the next year. So if you're kind of knowing that this is a competitive role, you want to put your best foot forward. Again, not all jobs get posted, as I mentioned before. So you could even go to a department and say, "Hey, are you hiring?" If you don't see if you have your heart set on a particular area, say you really want to work in the rec center and you don't see anything on Handshake, you are more than welcome to go there and ask. And again, we're happy to kind of work with them to make sure that they get a position posted on Handshake so you can proceed with that process. But I would say the majority of campus departments do post on Handshake. And then you need to just maintain at least a 2.0 GPA to qualify. So if any point during the school year your grades dip below that, that will impact your eligibility as well. So just to be mindful of that. We do have a one-page guide, which maybe, Isabel, you can drop that link in the chat of where that's located. And everything we're talking about today will be outlined in this guide. So moving on to how do I find a work-study job? So we're going to show you just a quick video that kind of demonstrates what that looks like on Handshake. So give me one moment to cue that up. Oh, hold on. I don't think that I shared with sound. Let me do that real quick. All right. Great. Let's do this again. Upload your resume or any other work that out. All right. That was a very quick demo, but again, we'll share out these resources after the fact if you need to rewatch. But again, you will have access to even have the option to view once you've accepted your award on Handshake. All right. So as this screenshot shows, and again, sorry, it's a little fuzzy, but you would go to the job section and then go to all filters, and then you should see an option that asks to view work study. So that is kind of what that looks like. So just a few tips on kind of how to prepare for that job search. So we don't have enough time today to kind of go in depth on some of these things. So I'm just going to give you a quick preview of some top tips. But we do have a lot of workshops and resources at the Career Center that are going to be able to help you. Again, for some of you, writing a resume, you're like, I don't even know where to start. You've never had anybody even give you feedback on a resume. So we can help you with that. So in general, most of you are probably going to stick to one page. I would imagine a majority of you probably don't have enough experience to go beyond. But again, if you think that could be the case, then please do chat with someone at the Career Center to give that feedback. But things you want to include, I think as a student, putting your education towards the top. What are you studying? I find that so many, because I have been doing my own recruitment, I get students who didn't even update their resume. I know that they're coming to UCR just because they're in the pool of students, but they didn't even add UCR to their resume. And I don't know what they're studying. I don't know anything about them. So I don't know when their grad year. So again, I do have some details because of your Handshake profile, but those are things you want to put on your resume. So um, work experience, if you've had any. Again, we know some of you may not have that, and that's okay. But you can definitely put volunteer opportunities if you've had leadership roles and clubs that you've been part of or in the community. Those are all valuable experiences that showcase your leadership, that showcase lots of transferable skills, maybe customer service or leading a team or being detailed. Like, just you kind of you got to dig a little bit and think, like, what are those experiences that, have really helped prepare me that I'm bringing to the table. And you're going to want to include just a few bullets that are going to explain what you did and show, what you accomplished through those roles. Um, Again, think about the skills that are relevant. So really important to tailor your resume. So if you're primarily wanting to kind of apply for dining services type jobs. Think about your customer service experience. Like, talk about the experiences you've had working with people, working in a fast-paced environment, having to make quick decisions. Those are all things that they're going to be looking for, even if it's not, you've never worked in restaurants. Think about what those transferable skills are and try to highlight that on your resume and your cover letter. Show them that you put some work into it as opposed to just kind of, shotgunning your resume, the same resume to every single job. And it looks like you spent zero time. Like, it doesn't show that you're that interested. So that will help you stand out. Um, Again, campus involvement, if you were a really great student in school and you earned awards, or you had honors, like, again, that says a lot about you as a student, and that's going to help distinguish yourself in the candidate pool. So again, I just finished looking through a lot of resumes, and these are some of the things that I myself was looking for. For me, it wasn't. There's a lot of departments out there, I'll just say, that would love to hire a first year, because they know that they can potentially retain you beyond 1 year. So I think just putting your best foot forward to show that you're taking that extra effort, I think will go a long way. We have a lot of resume building workshops available through the Career Center. You're going to start seeing those pop up on Handshake. So I encourage you. We have actually a resume studio that happens every Friday. And you can come in either with a blank paper or whatever you have. And we have peers that will kind of work with you to help develop that. And we also have drop-in hours available, that you could come in day of without an appointment, get a quick kind of resume review. And then we also have career specialists that can go more in depth. So for those of you that really need a deeper dive, you don't even know what you want to do, what types of jobs you're interested in, they can kind of explore some of that with you. So as I mentioned, these are some of those options that are available to you as a student. These are things that will carry on eventually when you want to start looking for internships, you want to start looking for full-time jobs. These services are available to you, but they also are available even just for part-time employment. So you have one-on-one support, you have kind of one-on-one and group support. And even if you want to do a mock interview, our team can support with that. All right, so just some quick tips on the interview process. So again, for some of you, this also might be new. So depending on if you're doing your interview virtual or in person, will maybe there's some slight differentiations in that, but overall, you want to dress how you want for the type of job that you want. So, I think if you are in a more casual type setting, it may be fine if you are, dressed professionally in like a polo or a nice top and slacks. But again, this is all about first impressions. So, but again, they understand you're a student. So I think that it is okay, but look like you didn't just roll out of bed. You actually care about this job. If it is something a little bit more professional, that you don't have access, I will say this is my quick plug for we do have a career closet on campus, and it's called the Our Professional Career Closet. It will open up week 1 of classes, and it's located in the Bears Den. And we do have open hours pretty much every day, and you get up to 3 professional attire items for you to keep every quarter. So that could be, you can have a full suit with those 3 items. So for those of you that just need to have maybe 1 or 2 outfits that you can wear on interviews, that's a great resource for you. So, next is be sure to read that job description. Don't kind of do your research before the interview. Be prepared to ask them some questions to show that you actually took the time to get to know a little bit about them and what their mission is and their goals are. And again, it just kind of communicates that interest and initiative. Um, if you are doing a virtual interview, be sure to check your technology and be in an environment where there's minimal distraction. So I know for some of you that's hard if you're, say, still you're at home or you're with your roommate or you can't find space on campus. I do want to say at the Career Center, we actually we have interview rooms at the Career Center. And if it is available, you are welcome to book an interview room for a virtual interview. So just to put that out there for those of you that might be a need. Um, Always be on time. If anything, be early. And because again, you're kind of communicating what your professionalism is very early on. So if you are late, due to extenuating circumstances, communicate, first of all, right away. But know that there could be some that might not be too gracious about that. Because again, especially if it's a competitive role, they are going to be looking for folks who are being responsible. So make sure to be on time. And then take the time to send a thank you email. It doesn't happen that often. So I think when you do, it really does help you to stand out. So show that you really were interested. This is what I took away, and all the more reason why I'm really interested in working for you. So it can go a long way. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Alex to talk through more of the hiring process after you have gotten your offer. So.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, so once you are hired, whether by an on-campus or off-campus department or job site, then this is the process that you'll go through to get the contract and then onboarding if you're an off-campus student. So once you do get hired, you're going to fill out the Work Study New Hire form. This is a form that you can find on either the Career Center website or the financial aid website. It's just a Microsoft form. You'll answer some questions there about where you're working, who your supervisor is, and their email, and then your email as well. And then once that's submitted, it will get sent to you since you added your email, and it will be a contract via DocuSign. So then once you get that contract, this is the student employment contract that is necessary for us to be able to start the process to get you hired either off campus or make sure you're all set up correctly if you're an on-campus student as well. On this form, you'll attach a job description if you have access to it, and a work study eligibility notification. This is basically just a link to a page that says how much work study you've been awarded for the year. If you don't have access to that job posting and you indicate it in your work study new hire form, then your supervisor will then be required to attach the job posting. Once you sign it and it gets over to your supervisor, and then it will come over to us, we'll approve it, we'll make sure you're all set up on the back end, and then we will send out a email to you and your supervisor saying that we have received your contract and that you could start the onboarding process. And then that onboarding process and everything will be done by your hiring department and their HR team. So any questions about that, you would have to contact them directly. And then the next slide can indicate that the off-campus hiring process starts out pretty much the same, but it gets a lot more involved and you're working directly with us for that onboarding. So it starts out the same with that work new hire form. You'll still get that contract that you'll have to attach a job posting if you have access to it. And obviously, if you don't, then your supervisor will. You'll attach that work study eligibility notification and you'll sign it and it will get sent over to your supervisor. And then once that's all completed, then we will start the onboarding process for you since you will be hired through our department. And then you will be working on that off-campus site. And so we work with a different team. So financial aid directly is not the onboarding team. And so you will get an onboarding packet from a different department and a different person. And they will indicate if you need to have any required appointments, such as an I-9, which proves that you're eligible to work in the United States, an oath appointment. If you do have those, if you did those recently and they're still up to date, then you possibly won't. You might just need to do an onboarding packet. And then once you're all cleared on that end, then they'll send me a letter, a clearance email, and then I will send out an official letter of clearance to you and your supervisor that you are all cleared to go on our end and you can start working at the off-campus site. And that letter of clearance comes in the form of an email. So yeah, so the on-campus, once you finish that contract, then that onboarding process is all done with the home department. But then the off-campus, it's a lot more involved, and we're involved in the actual onboarding process. So it's just a little bit more steps on that end. And then these next few slides are kind of some examples of those forms, just so you can kind of see what they look like. So this is what the Work Study New Hire form looks like. It's just a Microsoft form that, again, you can find on the Financial Aid or Career Center website. And once you fill that out, you will get that work study contract that you will give you a DocuSign that you will then need to attach that job description if you have it and a work study eligibility notification. And then in the next slide is that work study eligibility notification. Just so you can see what it looks like. It's just a website. So we do have that link right there. And it is in the job descriptions on Handshake. That link is also there. And also when you get the employment contract, it is also there. So you can just click on that link and it will take you just to a page. It will say the current year and then it will say how much you are awarded. And something that we do like for you guys to do on that is to provide that to your employer before your interview, just so they make sure that you are work study eligible. Because if they are thinking they're hiring a work study student and you go through all that process, but then find out you don't have work study, then they might have to go through a whole nother process finding other students. So usually we would ask if you could provide this to any employers during the interview or before, just to make sure that you are work study eligible. And then in that next slide is a example of a job description in Handshake. So a couple of things to note that are important and required is that the job posting must be current. So it has to be for this current year. If it's from previous years, we can't approve it since we haven't been able to look at the current job posting. Maybe things have changed or maybe codings have changed and things like that. So it does need to be current, and work study needs to be in the title. So if it's just a plain job description, then we also cannot accept that. So those are the two things that are required for any job posting that is added to your contract. And again, that is, so that previous slide is that eligibility notification, and then this is the two things that you would need to attach to your contract before we can approve it. And then the next slide is that letter of clearance sample. So this is again only for off-campus students, since you will be going through the onboarding process with your home department if you are an on-campus student. And so since we are doing the onboarding for you, if you're an off-campus, then we are sending out that letter of clearance. Once you go through that whole process with the onboarding packet with that other department and do any I-9 or oath appointments that are required, then you will get this email as well as your supervisor, and then it will indicate when you can start working, how many hours you have. So depending on how much your work study allocation was, and your hourly rate. And then once you receive this, then you and your supervisor can start working together to start scheduling you for hours.
If I can just make one comment, we do get feedback sometimes from our employer partners about some of the delays sometimes that happen in this onboarding process when students are not being responsive and following up with their required like onboarding items. So we want to get you guys started as soon as possible so that you can start working, but we also need you all to be responsive. And if you're getting kind of blocks along the way that are kind of preventing you from taking the next step, please utilize us as a resource to help you with that. But yeah, just again, these are all about those first impressions. So wanting to make sure that you're being responsive and communicative and kind of helping to move that process along as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So for this just for this off-campus process, just to know, we usually tell the off-campus supervisors that it'll take about 3 weeks to get the whole thing set up. And so that's kind of what they expect usually, and that's usually how long it takes for the onboarding team to go through the process, and generally students to make their appointments and things. And so yeah, again, if students aren't responsive, that can take a month or even two, and so you just wouldn't be able to work as long. So yeah, usually as responsive as possible is definitely the way to go. Yeah. And then here's a video kind of just detailing that starting process. All right. So that's just kind of what that process would look like. Um, and then, yeah, so once you're hired, so on the next slide, please, thank you. So then once you're hired, then obviously you will need to get paid. And then so everyone's going to use the TARS, which is the time and attendance reporting system, to get paid. And so if you're on campus, you may need to speak to your you can directly speak to them since they will be in charge of that process. Off campus is a little bit more involved with us since you are going to be working off campus and your supervisor does not have access to this system since it is a UCR-based system. We do the timesheet approvals via DocuSign. And so in the next slide, we'll talk about that a little bit more and just kind of what that looks like. A couple things to note is to not exceed your award allocation. So if you do, let's say, get awarded $3,000 for your work study position, you cannot go over that $3,000 amount. If you do, then you won't be getting that work study payment anymore. You would just be getting a general normal payment. And so your department wouldn't be able to use those work study funds anymore. We do offer increases in work study. So if you are getting close to like a $3,000 amount, you can reach out to the financial aid email, or we have an appeal form through student forums where you can request an increase. And if you are eligible for an increase, we can give you that increase. And usually it can be up to like 5,000, 6,000. I think usually the max we'll do is about 6,500 for the year. So just keep that in mind when you're getting close. And a good way to keep track of your hours is to just do the basic, division, just to add your award, um, divide it by, your pay rate. So for this example, it'd be 3,000 of an award divided by $18 an hour, determined by your supervisor, and then that would give you about 166 hours to work for the entire school year. Obviously, if you work like up to 19 hours per week, that can get depleted very quickly. And so just depends on how much you want to work and to see how quickly that amount can decrease. But again, you can ask for an increase, and if you are eligible, you can receive that. And then in the next slide is that off-campus timesheet process. Again, you will be paid bi-weekly. That's just the normal student pay time, and you will fill out on that TARS website. But you will also then be required to fill out this timesheet form that you will get via DocuSign. So generally, the second week of the pay period on about Wednesday, I'll send this out to every student that has been cleared for an off-campus position. And you will be required to fill this out, and then it will go to your supervisor for approval. So generally how it works is once you get it, you'll click on, that screenshot is just going to show it. You'll click on the yes or no. If you say yes, then you will be required to submit a document, and usually we'll require you to submit a screenshot of the detailed view of your TARS hours. And then once you sign that, it will get sent over to your supervisor. If they approve it, then they'll just indicate so. If there's some edits, then they would approve that I approve the timesheet with edits button. And then obviously if there are any changes, then I could change them on your behalf. If you don't work, we still would like you to fill this out. All you need to do is just hit that no button on that did you work this pay period first question. And then once you hit no, you would not be required to submit a document. You just need to sign it and then send it over to approval. Usually we just like that just to keep track and make sure that we have just kind of know where all the students are for each pay period. So yeah, that's generally the normal process. And so in the next slide, it's just some general things you may need to know, especially when you start working. So gross wages are how much you make before any deductions are taken out, like taxes and things like that. That net pay is your actual just take home pay. So obviously if you have any taxes are taken out, or if it gets sent over to, any other like programs or something, then obviously then that would be a deduction. So then that net pay would be exactly what you take home. A W-4 form is a form that tells you how much employers how much money to take out for each pay period. So, you know, if you work multiple jobs, have dependents, things like that, maybe you need more money. That's a form that you would fill out for that. W-2 form is the form that everyone gets at the beginning of the year for last year's wages. So just talking about just the general overview of your wages for the entire year, how much was taken out, your gross wages, and things like that. And then we do have a program within the financial aid office called the Financial Wellness Program. And if you have anything you want to know about, you know, how to budget, things like that, anything like financial related, you can go to go.ucr.edu/finwell or go to the UCR Finwell Instagram, and they'll do workshops and, you know, little notes here and there just to kind of keep you informed and, yeah, and just kind of knowing that process a little bit more. And will definitely help you get ready for the real world. Um, yeah, so then you can go to the next slide. So this is just who to contact. Us in financial aid for work study. We'll kind of do more of the work study eligibility questions, any allocation adjustments, like if you want an increase, things like that. If you have off-campus timesheet questions, then you can ask us. Again, if you have on-campus timesheet questions, you will need to talk directly to your supervisor for that. And then anything for, you know, how to sign up for direct deposit, anything with UC Path, anything basically once you get hired, that kind of process after that, then you'll kind of contact financial aid. And then for Career Center, that will kind of be the stuff right before you get hired. So anything for job search, you can schedule an appointment for that job search assistance, interview prep, resume and cover letter reviews. And then they do have workshops for skill building, resume reviews, things like that. And then they also do host events where you can talk to employers and maybe get in contact with them just to see if you could work for them and things like that. And then the next slide is just the actual emails that you will need to contact. So again, for those financial aid issues, you can contact finaid@ucr.edu. The Career Center stuff, you'll need to do careercenter@ucr.edu. And then I'll pass it back over to Michelle for some announcements.
Perfect. Thank you. And I re-put the link in the chat for that Q&A. So we are kind of wrapping up with just a few announcements. And we're going to get to your questions. So just a reminder on that. Real quick before I get into some of these announcements, I also just wanted to say, you know, there's a lot of resources out there for all of you. You know, there's CalFresh, you know, for those of you that are needing, you know, assistance with meals and food. There are a loan to learn program for those of you that maybe it's, you know, accessing a laptop. That is a resource. And then I know there's a lot of transportation resources as well. So those are things we'll highlight in upcoming newsletters. So again, be sure to read those. But just wanting to share, you know, in addition to finding a job, there's a lot of resources for you just to be successful here as a student. So with that, a couple announcements I'm excited to share. So I'm going to turn it over to Isabel to share on this.
Yeah, so this upcoming quarter, it might change a little bit as the quarters come around, the new quarters will come around, but we're gonna be having work study drop-in hours here at the Career Center that I'll be here for. So the current hours that I'm currently gonna be available are gonna be Mondays from 10 to 11, which are in person here, drop-in hours at the Career Center. Tuesdays from 3 to 4 p.m. here at the Career Center. And then if you're not available any one of those days to come in person, I'm going to be having Fridays available from 11 to 12 p.m. through Zoom. So basically what these drop-in hours are going to be are 15-minute meetings with one-on-one with me. And if you have any questions in regards to work study, I can also help you out with like resume building. If you need a little bit of help with like Handshake and looking for jobs, that's what I'll be here for, specifically for the work study students. As for Fridays, I will be creating a booking link So as soon as I create that booking link, though that will be available to you all. And if you do want to double check in with like my work study hours, you're able to view that on the Career Center website. So I'll make sure that I link that as of right now. But my name's currently not on there, but it will be up on there probably by the end of this week or next week. So you can double check in with those hours as well.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, we're excited for you to get a chance to meet with Isabel. And just to share too, we actually have a team of peer advisors that also provide drop-in hours. So if these hours don't work with your schedule, any of our peers are being cross-trained to support with work study, but Isabel really would be more of our expert to support. But again, you would have a team of people who can assist you with job search related questions.
Mhm.
And then if in case you don't know, we do have a student employment job fair coming up on October 2nd. So that's going to be that for week one on that Thursday, and it's going to be at the Career Center on our patio. We have I would say as of right now, the majority are on-campus departments that are participating, and we do have a handful of off-campus work study partners, and then some that are not in work study. So we are opening this job fair beyond the work study community here. But again, as Alex mentioned earlier, a lot of our departments really prioritize work study students because it helps them, to cover costs of hiring students. So you definitely will have an advantage. So I would recommend if you plan on attending this event, bring your work study eligibility notification form with you just to show them like, hey, I am work study eligible. And again, that's something that they can take note of when they meet with you. So great opportunity to kind of beyond the job application on Handshake to get in front of a hiring manager. And on Handshake, we'll have the full list of who is attending so you can kind of prepare in advance. Also, throughout the year, you're going to be hearing from us via newsletters. So again, be looking out for that. We have, I realize I just said fall 2025, but these are our year-round dates. We're going to be doing what we call appy hours on the patio. So we're going to be inviting, both on-campus departments and off-campus to come and table with us on our patio for kind of mini recruitment events. So if you are like, getting to October, November, and you're like, oh my gosh, I still haven't found a job, and you're feeling that pressure, just know like, again, there's still going to be postings happening throughout the year, and we will have these opportunities for you to still meet with people and hopefully get kind of your best foot forward there. So just to make note of that and be looking out for those dates. And then finally, we have our website. The video demoed a little bit of our website, and I put the link in the chat, but I recommend maybe bookmarking this for yourself. And I just wanted to show you how you get there. So if you go to careers.ucr.edu, and then you'll go here to students, down to gain experience and work study program. So that is our page. And on here, a lot of the forms that Alex mentioned that you'll need to get started are going to be here. So after today's orientation, we'll have the recording here on our website that you can access at any time. Here is that one-page student guide that we referenced, and Isabel put the link in the chat that you can reference as well. Here is after you have been offered a position and need to start kind of that student employment contract. Here's the work study new hire form to start that process available to you. And then finally, here are some FAQs available to you if you are want to kind of dig in. You might get some of your questions answered. And then obviously there's more information about eligibility and what the process is for getting hired. And then all the dates that we discussed are going to be here as well, as how to access those jobs on Handshake. And then here is that work study eligibility notification form link that we mentioned as well. So pretty much everything that you need is here. We do have a contact us button here as well. In addition to that career center at ucr.edu email, which comes to Isabel, we also get these. So either way, you can contact us and we'll respond to your questions. Um, so yeah, just wanted to share that really quick. And then I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and I will stop our recording so we can get to our Q&A. So